Charicific Valley YouTube, this battle is for you. So guys, this is a viewer battle versus Charicific Valley from August 24th, and I just want to do a huge shout out to this guy. Make sure you go and check out their channel. They do upload Wi-Fi battles and Pokemon related content. So when we originally jumped into this Wi-Fi battle here, we both agreed to use a team from Regulation A. Now these are our original teams there from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, fully trained, ready to go, ready for competitive, and they decided to bring in the Palafin there. Of course, we did the fake out, which flinched the Palafin, and second turn ended up going in for the flip turn, managing to do some damage off onto the Tinkaton and going back to their party. That way they can actually swap out to a different Pokemon, plus as well also allows them to go from 0 to hero. If you guys don't know what 0 to hero is, that is when Palafin is out into battle in its base form, goes back to the party, but then re-enters the battle at a later time and does a complete form transformation. It actually becomes a lot more stronger in its hero form. So of course, in comes the Clodsire to replace that Palafin 0 form, and we end up getting a Gigaton Hammer onto the Clodsire. Now of course that does quite a decent amount of damage, not as much as I had hoped though, because obviously, let's face it, we were going for that Palafin. But you know what, we've got the Ice Hammer here, we're going to go in for the Ice Hammer, try to get some damage off onto the Clodsire. I was really hoping that we were actually going to be able to knock this thing out, but it does survive and it manages to pull off a recover. Now of course that recover goes back and restores the health up to about 3/4 of the way, and of course I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to be able to do to this Clodsire? At first I thought maybe I'd go for another Ice Hammer here, maybe be able to knock it out, but I decided to end up swapping out the Tinkaton and go into my very first starter Pokemon in the Paldea region, and that is going to be Meowscarada. Now of course Meowscarada is a pretty neat Pokemon. It does get the ability of Protein, which allows it to change its type pretty much at a whim. Okay, so Clodsire actually is withdrawn. In comes the hero form of Palafin, and pretty much at this point I have to make a decision. Am I going to go for the Flower Trick? Am I going to go for another move? Pretty much at this point, I did not realize that Palafin was going to be able to outspeed this Meowscarada. So it actually ends up going in for the close combat there, and he is able to pick up the first knockout of the battle. Now, of course, Palafin being onto the field, it is a water-type Pokemon. Pretty much at this point, I have to make a decision as to which type of Pokemon I want to come in with. My first instinct was Palmod, mainly because of the fake out, and then I could go for like a Volt Switch. But then, of course, then there's also the Annihilate. He wouldn't be able to go for the close combat. And, you know, I'm pretty much at this point where I'm like, you know what, I don't really want to sacrifice any of these Pokemon at the time being. So we end up going into our Tinkaton once again. Now, of course, we did put the selection onto the fake out. This whole team pretty much focused around doing fake outs at the very beginning. I was very rusty when this team was originally made. I was just returning back to Wi-Fi battles at the time when this game came out, and I was trying to get back into the swing of things. So pretty much my Gen 4, Gen 5 kind of mindset kind of kicked in, and it's like, you know what, as elite Pokemon, I'm just going to go in for them fake outs and try to flinch them, break any kind of focus sashes or anything that they're going to try to set up. He actually ends up withdrawing the Palafin, goes back into the Clodsire, and of course we get the fake out off onto the Clodsire. Not really effective. At this time, I decided to go for the Gigaton Hammer because that's really the most powerful move that this Tinkaton has. Unfortunately for me, it barely survives. I'm sure that's probably like 1 to 5 HP or something crazy like that. In comes the recovery move, and of course he does regain his health, swaps back the Clodsire, and comes back in with another Pokemon. As you guys can see here, Palafin re-enters the battle. We're going in for the Ice Hammer here at this time, and of course it's not really effective, not really doing anything, and of course Tinkaton's speed is now lowered yet again. Now that's not really looking good for me here at this point. This 0 to hero Palafin is definitely proving to be a problem for this team. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, will I go for the Terra change and then go for the Gigaton Hammer and try to pull it off? or am I going to swap into something that's going to be able to take a hit? Now, pretty much at this time, I'm going to swap out, go out to Annihilate. When it comes to the Annihilate, I know that I'm not going to be hit by any kind of fighting type move, and that's kind of why I went into the Annihilate here. However, he ends up going in for the Jet Punch. And of course, Jet Punch lands a hit onto the Annihilate, which is actually good for the Rage Fist. But then again, the Palafin goes back to the party, and in comes Palmot. Now, everybody back in the day kind of used Palmot for early Scarlet and Violet Wi-Fi battles, mainly because of the attack of Revival Blessing. However, I'm really kind of interested to see that this Palmot is on the field. It actually went for the double shot, which, you know what, I'm going to be honest with you, I never even crossed my mind to have double shot on my Palmot. But ended up knocking out the Annihilate, and of course he's used up all his electricity on the Palmot. So pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, it can't use any more electric type moves. So we're going to bring in our own Palmot here. And with Palmot onto the field, I do have Revival Blessing. I also have Fake Out, Close Combat, and Volt Switch. So I'm going to go in for the Fake Out here. We're going to try to flinch the opposing Palmot, or any Pokemon that they might swap in and out. Obviously, if they swap a Pokemon in, they're not going to be able to attack that turn anyways, but the Fake Out was pretty much just for this Palmot. So as you can see here, it is actually flinched, can't do any kind of moves, and then of course, we have to make a decision if we're going to attack it or not. So we are going to go in for the Terra Change here. We're going to go in for the Terra Fighting type. We're going to try to get a boost here with our Close Combat. Now, is this really the smartest decision? Likely not. However, at the time of the battle, I thought this was a pretty sick idea. I thought, you know what, we got to get this thing out of here so that way it can't regain another Pokemon coming back from the dead later on in the battle. So anyways, we actually end up taking out the Palmot, we drop our defense and our special defense, and of course, their Palmot actually goes down. Thankfully, it's the very first Pokemon that we actually get knocked out, and now we don't have to worry about any Revival Blessings later on in the match. So there's only a few ways that this can go, okay? They're either going to bring in the Palafin again to get a Jet Punch, go back to the party, swap out something that's good, or they're going to go in with a completely different Pokemon. As you can see here, they end up coming in with Silezer, and of course Silezer is a Dragon Normal type Pokemon. Ends up going for the Shed Tail, which sets up a substitute as a decoy, and then goes back to the party to allow a safe swap in for another Pokemon. Now, when the Pokemon comes in on the opposing side, of course, it is behind a substitute. And here comes a Skeledirge. Now, of course, Skeledirge is not really the Pokemon I'd like to see right now, because quite frankly, I'm a fighting type, it's a ghost type, and really, not really a good pair. I can't go for any kind of close combats here, I can't get any kind of boosted attacks off onto this, so I decided to use up my Revival Blessing for this battle, and I'm going to regain a Pokemon back that has fainted. And that is actually going to be the Meowscarada. Now, if you take a look at the scoreboard, of course, that basically sets me back into a good shape and position for this battle. So basically, we only have one Pokemon knocked out, same as our opponent. Now, of course, the Skeledirge has gone in for the Will-O-Wisp, which has actually burned the Palmot, and it is going to drop our attack stat down as well. So right now as it is, we can't go for any kind of close combat, we can't do any more Revival Blessings, we only have Fake Out left. Fake Out and Volt Switch. So obviously we have to make the right choice, we have to go for the Volt Switch, and then we have to go back to our party. Now of course we do have Armarouge, so if there was any kind of fire type move coming in, we do have the Flash Fire. So that should actually boost up our fire power in order to do more intensive fire type moves. Now of course we are a psychic type, he is a ghost type. I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know what, I'm going to go for the psychic here, try to get some damage off onto the substitute to be able to try to knock it out. Now we do actually in fact take away this substitute. However, this Skeledirge has Shadow Ball. Now we do manage to survive a Shadow Ball, which is fantastic, but one thing I didn't think about is the drop in the special defense. That's a really big issue here with this battle. Now, luckily, we do actually outspeed the Skeledirge, managing to pick up a bit of damage off onto it there from the Psychic. And then, of course, another Shadow Ball comes in and almost knocks us out, which is not that great. We do have the capability of going for another turn here with our Armarouge. Now, of course, I don't think there's any priority moves with Skeledirge, so we don't really have to worry about it outspeeding us here in this situation. However, if it had decided to go for like a Torch Song, and we weren't Armarouge with Flash Fire, it would actually boost up its special attack, so we know that it can't do that right now. It managed to go for a Slack Off. Now, this is actually quite common with Skeledirge. It's a way to regain your health without actually doing anything to really regain your health. Like, you're not really sapping any strength, you're not doing any Giga Drain damage, you're not really posing a problem here. Now, Skeledirges are usually pretty bulky. You can have some pretty decent defensive values into Skeledirge, and it will stay in a lot longer than what you think, as you guys can see here. Shadow Ball coming back in, of course. That Psychic was not powerful enough to be able to knock it out. I was going for another Psychic in hopes that maybe I would drop their special defense, but that's definitely not the case. So unfortunately, the Shadow Ball actually knocks out our Armarouge. Now, we do have a few Pokemon remaining. We actually have up to 4 Pokemon. We have Tinkaton, Pawmot, Baxcalibur, and Meowscarada. Now, I'm kind of trying to debate here on what my best option is. I could go in with Meowscarada, go for the knockoff. I could go to Baxcalibur and maybe survive with the Thermal Exchange. But you know what? Pretty much at this point, I know I can outspeed the Skeledirge with Meowscarada. I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I'll go for the knockoff here. We'll pick up the KO on the Skeledirge, and then of course then he'll be able to, force it out with another Pokemon, something that we haven't seen yet. Honestly, I'm not really sure at this point in the video what's going to happen with that Skeledirge, but it looks like they're going to withdraw Skeledirge and send in Clodsire. Now, Clodsire seems to be the biggest troll here alongside of Palafin. These two Pokemon seem to wall my team pretty darn good. Now, we do get the knockoff here. We actually take away the heavy-duty boots, and that's pretty good, but I'm really hoping to pick up the KO off onto this Clodsire. We're going to go in for the Flower Trick here, and that is going to be able to take the KO on Clodsire, and that's going to even up the battle here once again. So we actually have 2 out on his side, 2 are out on our side. Obviously there was 3, but we got the revival back. And of course, that means another Pokemon's got to enter the battlefield once again. Now here is the Palafin hero form. Now, Palafin may or may not be able to outspeed Meowscarada here at this time, and it actually appears that it is faster still than my Meowscarada. I was hoping to be able to go for like the Flower Trick and be able to pick it off, but unfortunately we don't get that opportunity, and we end up losing Meowscarada there once again. I was thinking that maybe earlier, maybe it was just kind of a fluke that he was able to outspeed, but it looks like he actually does outspeed my Meowscarada, which actually blows my mind. In comes my Pawmot here again, and of course we've got the Fake Out, we've got the Volt Switch. We do not have a Revival Blessing at this time, so we can't bring anyone back from the dead. No Necromancy here. Okay, no Pokemon are going to come up and rise up from the dead unless, you're a ghost type. But they're going to withdraw the Palafin here once again. They're going to go into their own Annihilate. Now, Annihilate is a big, threatening Pokemon, of course. Everybody back in the day was using Annihilate, but I'm pretty sure Annihilate is still widely used here today as well. Of course, we can't do the Fake Out because it's a Ghost-type Pokemon, so pretty much all we can do is go for the Volt Switch. So Volt Switch does a little bit of damage, gets the Pawmot back to the party, and then of course that allows us to bring in a new Pokemon. Now, we can either go to Tinkaton or we can go to Baxcalibur. Both Pokemon are really not the one that we want to bring in against this thing, but you know what, Baxcalibur is a little bit more bulky, so I'm thinking to myself, maybe we can actually do something here. Annihilate actually ends up going for the Bulk Up, which raises its attack stat and its defensive stat. However, at this time of the battle, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I gotta do something to be able to boost up my stats, so I end up going for the Snowscape because I wanted to raise up the defensive values of my Baxcalibur. And, I'm gonna be honest with you, it was kind of a cool idea, but at the same time, I am fighting a fighting type Pokemon, so it may or may not really work that well. And as you guys can see, we actually are about halfway through our HP. I ended up going for the Glaive Rush, and I was really hoping that that would do a lot more than it did. Definitely not able to pick up the KO onto the Annihilate, and as you guys can see, the Drain Punch actually makes contact, knocking out my magnificent Dragon-type Pokemon. So at this time, I have 2 Pokemon remaining. I've got Tinkaton, I've got Pawmot. Both Pokemon have Fake Out, obviously not going to be able to do anything with that here. We end up going back in with the Pawmot, and of course we're on an Air Balloon. No ground-type moves are really going to come my way here at this point in the battle, I'm pretty sure. Volt Switch coming in, we're going to get a little bit of chump damage off onto the Annihilate. Not really doing very much, as I might add. And Tinkaton comes back in. Now, if you guys know me, I do not run from a Pokemon battle. I will stick it out right until the end, to the point where I'm either going to win or I'm either going to lose. Now, of course, we have Tinkaton here. We actually pick up a KO from the Primeape. Primeape just one-shots us, knocks us out, and we're pretty much left with Pawmot. So what I want to say here, Charicific Valley, is GG. Thank you very much for the battle. I appreciate the fact that you wanted to do a singles battle. You've actually proven to me that I actually need a little bit more practice in regards to singles, and I'm really glad that we were able to bring these teams back out into the spotlight and give them another go at being cherished or viewed. So thank you very much for that, guys. Make sure you go check out Charicific Valley's YouTube channel, and I will catch you guys at the next stream. Take care, have a good one, and peace out.